What's up, everybody? This is Smokin Joe, and welcome to the premiere episode of Smokin Joe's Smokin Podcast right here on YouTube. And I know to many of you that's listening or watching right now, so to speak, this is the first time that you ever heard the sound of my voice, and that's perfectly okay. And I know some of you have followed me since day one, since my very first radio broadcast 10 years ago, and know that this is also the debut of me going into the podcast world. Over the last couple years, I've had a lot of you message me on Facebook, or, we talked, and you say, Smokin Joe, y'all start a podcast. Smokin Joe, podcast would be awesome. And I'm finally taking your all's advice, and I'm going to see how this is going to go. And ladies and gentlemen, just to let you guys know, this podcast will deal with, to put it in a nutshell, it's going to deal with a lot of randomness. We'll be talking about everything from music, of course, video games, movies, nostalgia, personal issues, and so much more. Now, two topics that I prefer to stay away from, of course, is anything to do with politics and religion. Even though deep down I'm a big history guy and it's my favorite subject and all, but me and politics, I choose not to talk about them because I know that's a hot button topic of discussion, especially right now with the way everything is between the government shutdown and all that malarkey. So those are two topics I will say first and foremost that you don't have to worry about being discussed on this podcast. But ladies and gentlemen, as this will be episode 1, we'll still have plenty to talk about, and we're going to have a good time as we do it, because that's my goal, is for every episode for us to have a good time and just to be able to have fun and have plenty of discussion. And feel free at any time as you're watching this video, if there's something that you would like for me to talk about on the next episode, or if you want to chime in on any of the topics that I plan to go over, feel free to let me know in the comments, and I will take any suggestions, because, this is brand new to me. And I know with this being episode 1, it's not going to be perfect, because, first and foremost, I'm not perfect. But, any suggestions I'm always open to. I'm literally an open book. So, anything that you guys would like for me to do to make the podcast better, or topics that you would wish for me to discuss, as long as it's not politics or religion, feel free to let me know, and I will do my best to get it squeezed in. But some of the topics that we're going to be talking about today, ladies and gentlemen, of course, we're going to be talking about the new Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection and the new patch update that's going to be going on. Also, everything else from Daylight Savings Time to Daylight Savings Time, also the new Simpsons Hit and Run Futurama mod, and also some notable deaths that have occurred this week, including Dwayne Roberts and Diane Ladd. To those of you who are unfamiliar with those names, I'll be sure to give you more information on who they are and their contributions to the entertainment industry and beyond. But to start off tonight's episode, or today's episode, whatever time that you're listening in, something that I got started watching a few days ago, and it's available on Hulu and Disney Plus, is a show called Hollywood Demons, where it focuses on the dark side of Hollywood and what happens behind the scenes. And it's kind of like very familiar to a show that I've also watched in the past, Dark Side of the Ring, which deals with the dark side of professional wrestling. But this show will discuss, issues with certain actors and certain dark moments behind the scenes of TV shows and movies. And one actor that it highlighted that I was, that I'll admit that, growing up in the 90s and even the 2000s, my sister was a big fan of this show, Seventh Heaven. And, of course, one of the main actors in the show was Stephen Collins, who played the role of Reverend Camden. Supposed to be this great TV dad, preacher, a positive role model of the show. And then just over the last, I would say the last decade, all this news started coming about saying that, he liked to molest children, mostly underage girls. And just the details that it admitted in that one episode, it was just, I mean, it was enough to make anybody's skin crawl. You know, it just made me look at him through a different light. And the thing that I don't understand is, okay, so now that all this has come to light, and the creators of the shows and the program presidents know of his past history, why in the hell did they let him be on a show where he plays a preacher and most of the cast is underage girls? And just knowing this news now, you know, it just makes me look at the show through a different light. And there have been a couple scenes, like going back and rewatching some of the old episodes, you know, it's just seeing a couple of the scenes where it shows him around the girls, which are his daughters. And one episode, it was actually a later episode, it showed the youngest daughter, Ruthie, who is already, you know, a teenager. It shows her standing in the bedroom and she's dancing almost like a stripper. And he's just standing there and just had this look on his face like, oh my God, like it seemed like he was enjoying it. And it was just really creepy to look at. And especially now just knowing this news is in light, and just watching that episode and hearing testimonies and stories from other people who have been victims of his acts, it's really sad to hear. And the thing is, you know, they've not pressed any charges against him. Despite all this evidence coming to light, there is no charges against him. But now, ever since that, you know, the shows came out and all these allegations and true stories have popped up in media, he's quietly took a step back from acting. And that's why you haven't seen him in any projects since, I would say, 2015. And, I mean, really, you know, if he's going to be that big of a sicko, I mean, who would hire him? I mean, yeah, you know, don't get me wrong. He was a great actor in the past, but he shouldn't have done what he done. I mean, just thinking about that is just sick and shameful. And, you know, it's like going back to the whole Bill Cosby situation. You know, here he was back in the 80s, you know, he was the world's greatest dad. You know, he was rated America's #1 dad. And then, here he was, you know, messing around with women and, you know, raping them. And that's tarnished his reputation. That's why you don't see episodes of The Cosby Show rerun anymore. And why they're like finding a needle in the haystack just to find reruns of it. But, you know, here he was a big icon, one of the biggest icons in television history. If you watched him as Dr. Huxtable, or if you watched him in the Puddin' Pop commercials. And now, since all that news has came to light, it's tarnished his legacy, and now he's paying the price. And, like I said, just thinking about it, you know, it's enough to make anybody's skin crawl, and it's enough to make anybody, you know, mad about it, because that's something that shouldn't have happened in the first place. Is, with this news coming to light, and a lot of people knowing about it even then, why do they continue to allow the madness to occur? You know, that's something I'll never understand, especially with the Stephen Collins case. Because they already knew of his troubled past, but yet they still hired him anyway to be on Seventh Heaven. And most of the cast consisting of underage girls like Beverly Mitchell and Jessica Biel. And, I mean, it's just creepy. You know, it's sick. But, as the famous words of Kermit the Frog and him sipping on his Lipton tea, that's none of my business. But, I will say this, it's just wrong. And I don't care what anybody says. You can agree to disagree with me or whatever. And I'm just going to say it's wrong and it's sick. And speaking of that, you know, if you've got an opinion, like, I want to hear it from you guys. In the comment section right now or whatever, just stop what you're doing, no matter what you're doing, and chime in. and say, tell me what you think about this whole situation. Like, what is your honest opinion? And just feel free to say whatever comes off your mind, is all I'm going to ask. And, I can agree to disagree. I'm not going to shame you just over your opinion, because I'm not that kind of a guy, first and foremost. But, that's the whole point of this podcast, that I want to be able to hear from you guys. So just let me know what you think, and we'll go from there. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our first break right now. And when we come back, we're going to give you guys an update on the government shutdown. And I know, like I said, I don't want to talk about politics, but this is about the furthest extent that I will talk about it. And I just want to give you guys an update on it and just talk about that just for a brief moment. So when we come back, we'll be talking about the current state of the government shutdown and some important information that you need to know pertaining to that whenever we return. So stay tuned, and this is the Smokin Podcast with Smokin Joe. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are now back, and as I promised, we were going to talk briefly about the current government shutdown, which is now considered the longest government shutdown in American history, as we are now on day 36. And as many of you know who have been keeping up with the news, like myself, one of the things that's being greatly hurt by the lengthy government shutdown is the food stamps / SNAP benefits being depleted. And it's really, like a scary time right now, especially with the last two crucial months of the year being, November and December, and the holidays that we have coming up, that a lot of people, they depend on SNAP benefits as being their only source of food income. And it's a scary, thing to consider. And all I can say is, I hope that they can all come to an agreement. And I don't care what side that you're on, if you're Democrat or Republican. I'm not going to say who I am or who I'm affiliated with, but I just hope how soon that they can come to an agreement on some things, and they can get the SNAP program back up and running. And get the government back up and running. So that way this madness don't continue. But to those of you who are being impacted by the government shutdown and the ending of SNAP benefits currently, definitely take advantage right now of the different food banks that's around. And there's been lists going around, like being shared on social media from county courts and different areas, talking about the different food banks you can go to at churches and just all over. Just be sure to, if you see those being shared around, just take advantage of that and go to your nearest food bank that if you meet the qualifications. Because, something's better than nothing at all. Because right now, with just the way that things are, who knows when it'll be when we'll come to a resolution. And right now, with the holidays coming up, everybody needs all that they can get. So it's important to keep in mind of the resources that's out there. So to those of you who are in this, to those of you who are being affected, you've got somewhere to turn to. Because like I said, this is a scary time, and never would I have thought that the government would be shut down for this long, but here we are, unfortunately. So like I said, just be sure to take advantage of those resources, and just, social media, social media is always a good idea to follow if you're not a social media user. That'd be, one of the first places I would go to see what resources are out there, because they'll be more apt to find those resources on social media than you would be anywhere else. Look, we're in the 21st century, internet's a big deal. So take advantage of it, It's just, I don't want anybody to have to go hungry or have to deal with, not having anything to eat during this time, especially with the holidays coming up. And, I want to be able to help people out as much as I can. So just reminding you guys just to be sure to take advantage of those food banks and just see what resources are out there. Do your research, because I'm telling you, it will definitely come in handy. And now on to our next order of business, which is a couple of well-known deaths that have went on this week. Two that I want to talk about in particular is one guy that you may be very unfamiliar with is Dwayne Roberts. And in case you don't know who Dwayne Roberts is, I mean, we owe a lot to him because he helped to revolutionize the food industry. And what I mean by that exactly is he's the one that introduced frozen burritos to grocery stores everywhere. The first ever frozen burritos was introduced in the 1950s, and his family owned a small meat wholesaler called the Butcher Boy that sold patties to local restaurants, including one of the first operating McDonald's, a location in San Bernardino, California. As a fast food chain and other burger joints grew in popularity, the family brainstormed other products they could manufacture. According to Roberts, a butcher who worked at the company, whom Roberts described as having a Hispanic heritage, made a suggestion, why don't you make a burrito? And Roberts would recall saying, I love Mexican food, but I had no idea what a burrito even was. And saying he was more familiar with things such as enchiladas and tacos. But Roberts went on to turn that seed of an idea into a bean and beef burrito that could be sold frozen and then deep fried. Roberts, who would parlay his business into a success, became a prominent role in Inland Empire Republican politics and attained local fame as an owner of the historic Mission Inn. And, like I said, we owe a lot to him because if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have frozen burritos or taquitos and whatever else that you find Mexican food-wise in the grocery stores. And another well-known actress that it was heartbreaking to find out that she had passed on was Diane Ladd. And Diane Ladd was known for several different movies, ranging from Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, Wild at Heart, Rambling Rose, and also probably one of the first movies that I've ever watched with her in it, of course, is her playing the mother of Clark Griswold in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. She passed away on November 3rd at age 89, and she is survived by her one of her children, which is also actress Laura Dern. And, like I said, we'll always remember her for her contributions to film and her Hollywood career. And ladies and gentlemen, be sure to leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know what your favorite Diane Ladd movie was. And let's remember her legacy for who she is. And also, any other celebrity or famous celebrity, that's passed on this year, feel free to leave a comment talking about their legacy and what you like most about them. I know one that we dealt with a couple weeks back that had passed on was one of my rock idols, and that is the spaceman himself, Ace Frehley of Kiss. He had passed away, and I don't know, we've been through a lot of deaths, like as far as celebrity and musician deaths this year. Like, I've almost completely lost count. It's just sad looking back on it now that ones that have contributed so much to making sure that we are entertained are no longer with us. And it's sad just to think about it. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be taking another break here very, very shortly. And when we come back, we're going to be diving into some video game topics. We're going to be talking about a new mod that has come out for classic game that you might remember from the early 2000s, and that is The Simpsons Hit and Run, and we're going to be talking about that here shortly, and also the patch update for the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection. So be sure to stay tuned. This is Smokin Joe's Smokin Podcast right here on YouTube. Alright, we are back, ladies and gentlemen, and before we go any further, something I wanted to let you guys know that I didn't mention at the beginning is every new episode of Smokin Joe's Smokin Podcast will be uploaded every Saturday, no later than 5 p.m. So any way to remind yourself, whether it's through a calendar or the Remind app, or you can use reminders on your iPhone. Be sure to set a reminder that says, hey, I need to tune in at 5 p.m. and listen to Smokin Joe's Smokin Podcast on YouTube. And also to keep up with day-to-day updates and just other things going on in the world, be sure to go to Smokin Joe's Smokin Podcast Facebook page and be sure to follow and give us a like while you're at it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as promised, before we went to the break, I was going to be talking about a fan favorite topic of today's world, especially with our adolescents and even adults alike like myself. Good old video games. You know, kids in their Fortnite and their Five Nights at Freddy's and all that stuff. So, going back to what I mentioned earlier, we're going to be talking about the new patch update with the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection. And to those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically a collection of all the nostalgic Mortal Kombat games, starting from Mortal Kombat 1 for arcade, going all the way down to Mortal Kombat 4. And this also includes the Game Boy versions, the arcade versions, even the console versions. And they have done a patch update as of November 4th that fixes the following problems. Input latency improvements across all games for PS4 and PS5 versions. Improved audio buffer for online play. Fixed connection filter setting that wasn't working properly. Various fixes to the fatality timer. Combos have been added to the moves list for relevant titles. Fix for Mortal Kombat 3 cheat menus not unlocking properly. Restored missing audio in 32X Mortal Kombat 2 for the Sega version. Additional improvements to Mortal Kombat 4, the fixed issue that caused Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 to reboot after Scorpion Fatality, and general stability improvements for Genesis titles. Pause button hold time reduced by 50%. One button fatalities added for all arcade titles, and a couple more improvements. So, to those of you who are big fans of the nostalgic Mortal Kombat titles, you know, the 90s games, it's definitely a collection worth checking out if you've got any of the newer systems, whether it's PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One, whatever the case may be. You know, be sure to check it out, because it's definitely a time warp to play through all those games. And speaking of time warp, we're going to be going back all the way to the good old year of 2003. And one of the most popular video games released that year was The Simpsons Hit and Run, that is still being talked about and played today. And possibly, you know, during that era, and keep in mind the systems that we had at that time was Xbox, GameCube, and PlayStation 2. That was probably one of my favorite games during that time. And I remember I was like the happiest kid in the world on Christmas morning, circa 2003, when I got that video game and I opened it up, and I was just like, holy Santa Claus, you know, I've wanted this game all year and I finally got it. And I was looking around on YouTube the other day, and I noticed they've done a killer mod for Hit and Run that focuses mainly on Futurama. And if you haven't checked that out yet, I definitely encourage it, because it definitely does a good job at paying homage to the show, and you can play as the different characters from Fry to Leela, and it's pretty spot on to how the show looked as far as, like, you know, the places that you can go to, and it's definitely worth checking out. I mean, it definitely pays good homage to The Simpsons Hit and Run. And another version I found a while back, there was one that pays homage to SpongeBob, and that was actually pretty good too. And it's weird how, like, mods like that can completely change the game, and could even as far as, like, making it a lot more appealing, you know. But if you haven't checked it out already, be sure to visit it on YouTube and check it out. And one of my best friends from high school, we were talking a couple days ago, and I told him about, you know, starting this podcast up. And one of the topics that he wanted me to mention as far as video games is the decline of a certain video game series that, to many of us, you know, we really enjoyed in the late 90s and early 2000s. And then once you got into around the ballpark of 2011, that was when things kind of went downhill. And in my personal opinion, this is a franchise that deserves a well-needed comeback. because this was possibly the game that helped to launch the Grand Theft Auto series to be as popular as it is. Because even before Grand Theft Auto, technically, or Grand Theft Auto as we know it today, this was the game that we had. And ladies and gentlemen, if you remember, it is Driver. Driver, which came out in 1999, followed by Driver 2 and Driver 3, and a few other games made by Reflections. I mean, it was a game that I enjoyed. And I feel like that is a series that deserves a well-deserved comeback. And I would say it's definitely one of the most underrated and underappreciated video game titles to be out there. And one that definitely doesn't get enough credit just for revolutionizing the video game industry. And, at that point in time, driving games wasn't really around then. And before you had games like Grand Theft Auto 3 and Vice City and San Andreas, this was the game that you had. And it mostly was out for PlayStation systems and also for PC. They had a PC version. And I think that Reflections, which is, still around as a company today, that they need to bring this title back from the dead. Because especially with the way, with as advanced as graphics is now, that this game deserves a well-deserved comeback. And something else I wanted to mention, going back to The Simpsons, to those of you who play Fortnite, in case you haven't noticed a new update, there is now a Simpsons mod that you can download, or a Simpsons map you can download, that you can basically play in Springfield. And you can also play as different Simpsons characters and also Family Guy. It's really cool, especially if you are a big fan of The Simpsons. Now, personally, I've never played Fortnite because I'm kind of behind on the times with video games, kind of. And, I mean, if I ever were to start playing, that'd probably be the first thing that I would download, because to those of you who don't know me, I'm a huge Simpsons super fan. Like, ever since day one, I've loved watching the show, and I've played just about all the video games, and I've watched, the series entirely since I was, a little kid. And I thought it was pretty cool to see that, being incorporated into a modern day game like that. Because honestly, the last Simpsons game that I played was Tapped Out for iPhone, which I'm still very salty about them getting rid of it, because that game helped to pass along the time. Even though I would crack up, because I'd be sitting somewhere like at a doctor's office or somewhere like that, and my phone would just randomly go off, and it'd be Homer Simpson. He'd say, "Are you cheating on me with some other game?" or "Stop doing things and play with me." He would say stuff like that, and then the person would look at me saying, "What the hell is that about?" And I'd say, "Yeah, it's just Homer aggravated at me because I'm not playing Simpsons Tapped Out." But, it was a fun game. If you like SimCity, if you never played it, it's basically the same as SimCity, but with Simpsons incorporated. It was a fun game, and it was very addictive. And whenever they announced that they were going to quit doing updates and the game was going to basically shut off, I was not a happy camper. It almost led me into depression. And yes, I am that sad of a person. I almost got depressed over a damn video game. And sorry, but not sorry. Oh, man. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be taking another break after that exciting discussion, rather. And we're going to be diving into more of a personal issue that I've been wanting to talk about. And ladies and gentlemen, this might be a time that you'll see me kind of get a little enraged, because this is a topic that I do not take very lightly. And I'll go over more about it whenever we come back from the break. But be sure to stay tuned, and we'll talk about it. Alrighty, we are back, ladies and gentlemen, and just as a friendly reminder, if there is a topic that you would like for me to discuss on future episodes of Smokin Joe, Smokin Podcast, feel free to let me know in the comments below what that topic you would like for me to talk about. And also, if you don't want to mention it in the comments, you can also send me a message on the Facebook page. And if you haven't done so already, be sure to like and follow it. And also, ladies and gentlemen, I do appreciate any and all feedback. Where this is my first time doing podcasts, I appreciate any feedback that you guys let me know about. Let me know that you've enjoyed the show. If there's things that I need to improve on, some things I could do to make it better. Feel free to let me know in the comments below. I understand that some comments can be ruthless sometimes, and people will say the first thing that comes off their mind. Well, it is what it is. But if there's any way that I can make the podcast better to, ensure that you guys enjoy it at the full potential, feel free to let me know. Because I don't want my podcast to be dull and boring and all that. I want it to be excited and you guys to, enjoy it. So anything I can do to make it better, feel free to let me know and I'll get it taken care of as soon as I can. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this next topic that I'm going to be talking about, I'm kind of, in a way, I feel like Peter Griffin. It's one of these topics that really grinds my gears. And it's one that, if I think about it, it really gets my blood boiling. And to give you a hint, it's actually a particular kind of person who think that they're flawless all the time, that they can achieve life so easily, that everything's handed down to them on a silver platter, and everybody is always kissing at their feet, and think that they're the golden child, and that, when they walk in the room, that the world's an audience, and they're the center stage all the time. They always got to be the freaking center of attention. It's people like that that I absolutely cannot stand. And the reason why, to be honest, there's nothing really special about them. Sure, yeah, they're doing everything great and all that, but it's not the best thing ever. Give somebody else a chance for once in your life. That's just something I've never understood. There's some people that think that everybody should bow down to them, that they're the greatest person to ever live, and they expect everybody to bow down to them and everybody to watch them. And it's like that they face no kind of repercussions for anything, and that they achieve life so easily without barely even lifting a finger. It's like everything gets handed over to them on a silver platter. And yes, my friends, there is people like that, whether you see it or not. There is people like that, and it's people like that that get on my damn nerves, and have been since I've been brought into this world. Everybody's the same. Everybody puts their clothes on the same. Everybody wakes up the same. Everybody is the same. Like, how hard is it to understand that idea? Nobody's special. I don't care if you're the Queen of England or if you're the freaking president. Everybody's the same. Nobody owes you anything. And you may go around acting all perfect and all that stuff, well, whoop-de-freaking-do. Nobody cares. I sure as hell don't. But there's people like that they expect for people to just, like I said, that they're center stage and that the world is the audience. They suffer from a syndrome, and I can't remember who said it on YouTube one time, but they nailed it right on the head. It's like another form of narcissism. It is main character syndrome. There is people that greatly suffer from that, and it gets on my nerves whenever people act like that. They act like that it should always be about them, and that they get everything handed down to them so easy, and they're just living their best life, while you've got people like me and other people that they get out and they bust their hump to get what they need and what they want, and nothing really to show for it, and it's like they have to earn life the hard way, and that's not how it should be. But unfortunately, with the way life is, that's how it is. And all you can do is hope that things can get better, and that, people like that, they kind of need to be knocked down on their pedestal. They can't always be on top all the time. And that's just a topic that, this is something I've been wanting to say for a long time, but I guess now that I guess that's one good thing about doing podcasts is I can speak my mind, and this is just one of those topics that I kind of have to let out. I mean, you can't always be the center of attention all the time, no matter who you are. Other people's got to have the spotlight. It can't always be about you, in other words. And there's one of these days that if you think that you're flawless and that you can get life so easy, there's going to be times that it's not going to work out that way. I've just got news for you. But there's some people that live in this fantasy world thinking that, everything will always be handed over on a silver platter. That's not how it is. I mean, life sucks sometimes. Or to some people, a majority of the time. And people like that I'll never understand. And folks, I want to hear it from you. If there's somebody in your life that acts like that, or if that's somebody that you're kind of, not a big fan of that acts like that, feel free to let me know in the comments. I mean, I can't be the only one out there that feels this way. I mean, call it jealousy if you want to. I mean, you could call it whatever you want. But it's people like that act all high and mighty and act like that they're the best of the best and act cocky all the time. It's people like that really irritate the absolute hell out of me. And I can't help to feel the way I do, but it is what it is. But, there I said it. I feel better now getting it off my chest. Let me know what you guys think. If there's somebody out there that drives you crazy like that, or if that's something that grinds your gears, feel free to let me know in the comments or on the Facebook page. Let me know what you think, and we can grap about it together. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, we're going to take another break, and when we come back, we're going to be closing out the first episode, and I'm going to tell you guys what to look forward to in episode 2. And just stay tuned, and we'll get right back to talking here in just a moment. All right, and we're back, ladies and gentlemen. And before we close up shop on episode 1, another topic that I wanted to talk about with you guys that I figured this would be a great way to end episode 1 is me and my sister last night, we kind of had a random discussion, that we tend to do a lot, talking about some of the weird things that people of today's generations, which we're talking about Generation Z and Generation Alpha, some of the weird trends and weird things that kids of this generation say. And there's just some of them. I mean, call me old timer or whatever, which I'm a millennial, by the way. I'm even having a hard time myself just kind of understanding what this new slang is. You know what I mean? Like, one of those being 67 or 67. I mean, what's the deal with that? I mean, that's something you've been seeing everywhere, and I'm just I just don't know what to say. Like, okay, it's very random. But I took it upon myself to do some research last night, and just from, according to good old Google, it says 6'7" could have multiple meanings depending on the context, including the slang term for so-so, which was popularized by a song or reference to being tall, as in 6 feet 7 inches, or the traditional phrase at 6 and 7, which means to be in a state of confusion or disarray. So really the question that sticks out in my mind is, what exactly are the kids meaning when they say 6'7"? And another thing, a toy that I'll never understand, and it's selling like crazy when you go to Walmart, is this whole skibbity-bee toilet or whatever, if I said that right, and if I didn't, I do apologize. But it's literally just a creepy head sticking out of a toilet. I mean, yeah, it looks funny and all, but I mean, who would buy it as a toy? And I heard the whole meaning behind it is if somebody you don't like, you just flush their head down the toilet. I mean, okay, it's just one of those random things, like, you just can't help to ask yourself why. Like, I mean, what's a skibidi? I mean, what the hell is that? I mean, that's something, I don't get it. I'll just put it like that. I just do not get it. And why is it a thing nowadays? But, every generation, even going all the way back to the baby boomer generation, we have these little quirks that make us unique, like different trends that a lot of other generations will find weird and find very bizarre and sometimes questionable. And this is just one of those occurrences. Like, never would have thought that we'd live in a generation. A lot of people looking back on it say, 2025 will consist of flying cars and all this, that, and the other. And here we are with skibidi toilets and AI and all that stuff, which I gotta admit though, AI is pretty cool. And a new app that's came out called Sora, I've got to play around with it where you can do your own like AI videos. And as you've noticed on this video, that's what I used to make the intro with. And I think it's a really cool app. You can actually take a picture, a photo of yourself, and let's say if you take a picture of yourself and you want to do the nesty plunge into a swimming pool, like you can edit to do that. You can tell it what you want, and it'll do it. And I've been noticing, like on YouTube, that they do it with celebrities too, like Bob Ross and Mr. Rogers, and they'd be in a WWE match together. Or Mr. Rogers would have a guest on the show like Eazy-E or people like that. And it looks real too. Like, it looks real, but at the same time, there's points throughout the video that you can tell that it is definitely AI. But, we have come a long way. I mean, AI has its positives and it has its advantages. And, working in the education system, I can see it having its disadvantages as well. And one of those is, kids would use it to cheat with. You can ask an AI bot like ChatGPT to type a paper. Let's say if you want to talk about prohibition, or you want to write a paper about the Emancipation Proclamation or the Watergate scandal, that you can just tell the app to do it, take care of all the dirty work. And then you've got all these apps like Brainly and Mathway that if you're trying to figure out a problem, whatever happened to using a calculator, which I understand math is a very difficult subject. Keep in mind, I'm terrible at math. Coming from somebody that's took college algebra twice. And those apps do come in handy, but at the same time, you can't use it all the time. I mean, you got to be practical with it. Use a calculator. But the sad thing is a lot of kids in this generation get spoiled to these apps. They use them for the wrong reason. So that's why I say the disadvantages, why that there would be disadvantages with using AI. You can ask it to type a report and it'll cite all the sources and do everything for you. And it kind of takes away from actually getting down and doing the research yourself and, actually doing the work of typing an actual book report. And it just kind of takes away from that whole experience. And, in the end, kids don't get nothing out of it. And that's why I think that there'll be a disadvantage behind AI. I mean, yeah, it's artificial intelligence, but you're not gaining any intelligence from it. I mean, it's cool to use in cases like Sora, or if you're doing like picture generations, I think it's really cool. But as far as that stuff goes, it just kind of takes away from that whole experience. And, I know that was kind of an array of topics we talked about just since we come back from the break, but let me know what you guys think. Do you think AI is a good thing, or do you think it's a bad thing? Or you're kind of in the middle and think, a little bit of good and a little bit of bad. And what do you think about these current trends with Gen Z and Gen Alpha? What do you think about this skibidi toilet? Do you think it's a nightmare in a toilet bowl, or do you think it shouldn't even exist, or you think it's hilarious? Let me know your thoughts. Feel free to let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think. And ladies and gentlemen, to close out the first episode, I want to thank every one of you guys for tuning in and watching episode 1 of the Smokin Joe Smokin Podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, be ready for episode 2, which will be available at 5 p.m. next Saturday. and we'll have plenty of more to talk about, and it'll be a good time just like it is this week. And also, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't done so already, be sure to go to the channel and like and subscribe to keep up with content, and also go to Facebook and like and follow the Smokin Joe Smokin Podcast Facebook page as well. And also, I plan to have it available on other platforms later on. I'm hoping to have it on Spotify here pretty soon. So if you're not about the whole YouTube life, you can always listen on Spotify as well. So I'm hoping to have the ball rolling on that soon, and I'll be sure to post updates on the Facebook page as soon as they come available. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend and a great week up ahead, and we shall see you guys next time. This is Smokin Joe's Smokin Podcast right here on YouTube.